very specific reaction, like singing something or whatever the others are doing, but I know I got the concept. So okay. I think it is now it's time to start. So welcome to the 138th airhacks TV. And we got, I think Hayden Jones, yes, is also in the chat. And what are we interested, Hayden? Where are you from? Also from Canada or US? And you asked me the first question: what is the best way to search your Q&A to find all this? What we have spoken about our topic before, and this was one of my to-dos. I thought there is less to do, so what I plan to do is to transcribe all the shows and create a list of questions covered. And but the questions tend to repeat, and we had one and how to call it, a friend of the show from Brazil, and he rewatched all the episodes. So I think he knows all the questions. So maybe we could hire him with colors, right, to help us with the questions. But at one point I will implement that. Right now there is no way except searching, and Googling is good. What I also have, I have my editor, so I can search for the questions. I actually I could implement a search if I had time. So okay. Yeah, John Paul. Yeah, time to quit. Yeah, and you are now a king. Are you a top fan? Yes. Aha. So the Zoltan was number one because he always attended the show. But with $1 Canadian, you earned 85 experience point, and you are now my top fan number one. And Hayden Jones, unfortunately, you didn't bought anything, so you are on fourth place. Okay. Now the question is there a log analyzing framework that would recommend for real-time monitoring? And this is interesting one. I actually wanted to look up. There are lots of questions, like lots of frameworks. For instance, the Open Search, Elasticsearch related, the whole family of framework of Elasticsearch frameworks. But having said that, I would say on premise, what works, it is not exactly. So what you're asking here is log analyzing framework with notifications. And what it means to me is it has to be real time, otherwise notifications would be not that interesting. And so it means we could consider the log statements as events. And if we do this, we have a great technology which is completely free in Java. It is called JFR, Java Flight Recorder, and JMC, Java Mission Control. And I had recently a podcast with Ingo from EJ Technologies. This is airhacks FM. And this was the very Ingo Kegel from EJ Technologies, and he has a JProfiler. This is a profiler tool, and this tool provides also a nice view to the events. But the idea is, and it works actually really good, is what you could have is you can very easily create, or very easily, you have to create a class. I think it is anonymous class annotated with JFR annotation, and you can create your own business events. And Java, on top of that, it emits hundreds of specific events. So so you can have complete monitoring solution based on that. So what you could do in production is, you can listen to these events, and the events are basically notification, because if an event happens, you could implement whatever you like. And you could have a Kafka mapping. There is already a Kafka mapping, so JFR to Kafka. So in Java, we are in the unique position to do that. And there is also a nice tool called Cryostat JFR. Let's see. I always think it's with K, but it's actually with C, which makes more sense. And what Cryostat does, it provides you a nice view, for instance, on OpenShift or Kubernetes-like environments, where you will see, how the events are flowing between microservices. So I think with Java on-premise, I will go with JFR. With Java in the cloud, what I do right now is I spend lots of time on AWS. And what we have is CloudWatch. And what CloudWatch is able to do is it can detect anomalies. So you get notified, or you can have these notifications called alarms. So you get also more or less for free. I mean, you have to pay for the CloudWatch, but it works out of the box without anything specific. And what do you recommend as a best practice to monitor an application? Okay, so my best practice is a worst practice, but it tends to work for me. So I think one of the best practices is log whatever you can. But what I saw in production with that is that it generates so much overhead or became so expensive that so what I saw is the expense is logical. I mean, the CloudWatch generates costs, and usually a significant amount of the cloud costs are logging costs. But what I saw outside the cloud on-premise is that extensive logging slowed down the application, and in some cases even it led to serialized execution. So it just the application was no more parallel or no more concurrent or less concurrent. So we saw bugs if we deactivated logging, and with logging it worked fine, which was interesting, right? So so you could use logging to fix your application, if you will. So what I try to do instead is to consider logs like really object-oriented events and spend more time what I'm logging and think, doesn't make sense to emit this event. So I would say log less with more meaningful events, and then also test it. So test means just take a look whether your log event, you will find it, in production. Does it really generate some events and generate some stress tests and some stress, and see whether your logging or monitoring solution is working. So this would be my my best practice or what I do, and it works well. And I spend actually a lot of time on my blog. This was it works on Quarkus, my blog, and it also logs a little bit. So what I did, I take a look at the logs, and whatever I say, okay, this is obvious, so I delete it, right? So okay, and if you delete something, you can say, okay, now it's gone. What it could do is, instead of logging, provide metrics, like you don't have, for instance, log your memory consumption. I also saw this. You could expose the memory consumption as an open telemetry or MicroProfile metrics. Okay, I hope it is clear and helpful. If not, re-ask in the chat, Hayden. You are. So does it matter how the logs is formatted? XML, JSON versus raw text. It is. So on CloudWatch, JSON works better. It is faster, and raw text is fine, but it has to be structured. So you still have to find, something in the logs. And the JSON is really bad with streaming, and XML you have to wait until the element is closed. But this is better with streaming than JSON. The problem with XML is it generates more data, so you have to pay for the tags. So you can compress XML better, but you have to pay, for the traffic. So in the cloud, I wouldn't use XML. I'm not using JSON right now. I'm just using raw text, and I can find whatever I like in CloudWatch. And on premise, it matters less because the storage tend to be cheaper than in the cloud. But on premise, I would use JFR, and I think, good idea. Okay, thank you, Hayden Jones. And maybe you became a top fan number 2 or something. I'm just curious. Wow, Hayden Jones, you see, you should overtake John Paul. And I think what John Paul could do, buy another color, and he will remain on the top, right? So this is a complete new take to airhacks TV. So I have now top fans, and I got a color, a blue one, and cool, right? So BCE announcement. Okay, I won't reveal everything, but this is something new and not new. So what it is this is a new website, and I'm working on it right now. And working means I try to keep it as short as possible. This is the only challenge because I have endless resources about the topic. I've wrote, I think, 2 books about that. There are lots of examples. So my challenge is to keep it as short as possible. And maybe you can help me go to the page, read it, and the next month you can provide, feedback as questions, for instance. And long story short, I give you a hint because I don't like to spoil everything because there are some talks on the horizon. You will show them. You will see them right now. And long story short, in a company meeting, they asked me, in the era of LLMs, is it worth to think about BCE, boundary control entity architecture? And I thought about this, and I say, okay, and this was just on a side note. It's not like the meeting was about that. It's just someone asked me this, right? And I thought about this, and if you think about boundary control entity, right? So boundary control entity is one of the oldest resources on the internet. This is older than UML. I mean, not in the internet. It's oldest resources in the Java space because I think it is 1995 roughly because it's older than UML. And there's lots of tools, articles, books, and resources about that. And also, you know my thinking. I always spend time for different reasons with MicroProfile, Jakarta EE, playing Java, no dependencies, because basically I was lazy. And my thinking was, if my clients just focus on the standards, there is nothing to migrate, nothing to port. We write boring business code, and then we go home and are happy, right? So this was my thinking. And all the standards I knew, MicroProfile, Java EE, J2E, they were semi-open source. It means the entire source code, PDFs, HTML, and so forth were publicly available. And what happened is LLMs read everything, and they now BCE and Java EE and MicroProfile experts. And this is what I did with the website. So okay, first I create here, the high level idea. So this is and there will be more. The architectural styles is serverful is a little bit farther than the other ones. So you see, this is what I try to do. I'm not happy with it. So I would like to keep, just the questions I get over and over again. This I'm also not happy with this. I qualify, not only qualify. Usually we don't need stereotypes. Nothing. It's just add inject and transactions and so forth and monitoring maybe. And I have an eBank here, a reference implementation, and the serverless example. So if you go to the serverless, you see MicroProfile with Crocus, a Lambda function, and so forth. And what this is, the boundary control entity, this is like the top level ideas, and they will be dialects because serverful is multi-threaded, serverless is single-threaded usually. So it means in serverful architecture, I would use maybe request scoped, right, from time to time, and I have to be more thoughtful regarding the threading and consistency. And serverless architecture is basically everything is singleton, everything is simple. I have lots of interfaces with static methods, and I don't care about threads, right? And and just for you, there are 2 hidden cards. What will come soon is web components, is everything. I have more examples than text. My challenge is to keep it simple and concise. And another is infrastructure as code. So if you follow my short, you will see lots of, strange enums and records, ideas, and so forth, and they are coming from infrastructure as code. So this is announcement number 1. And there is a part which you don't see. And this part which you don't see on the website is meant for LLMs. What I have several hundreds rules for LLMs. And in one of my upcoming talks, what I will do is, I will tell LLM, create a business component. And what it will do is, it will generate perfect code. Perfect code means code we understand is nice. No external dependencies, no interface, no managers, no mappers, nothing. Because 90% is already trained, and what I just provide you, the 10% difference. And if you think about this, the cool story is there is far less hallucination. And why that is, if you go to the Quarkus page, right? So we go Quarkus and REST. So this is the beginning. So, and if we go to the tutorial, you will find here a lot of stuff. So this is like async reactive streaming and so forth, and server sent event. If you take a look, okay, this is standard. This is fine, but this is lots of Quarkus specific. So I think there's lots of vertex. You see vertex stuff, and how it's called, my special friend multi, and so forth. And so if LLM will read this tutorial and learn from it, you get 20 paths with probabilities. And the LLM gets easier confused, because you say create an REST interface for Quarkus. Which one, right? This is exactly the same confusion which developers have if they have too many choices. But the cool stories with MicroProfile in this website will be extended soon. And what I will do is I will say, okay, generate a MicroProfile JAX-RS service. And there's only one. There's only one path. So my experience with that is that it is actually, if you know what they are doing, you can write beautiful, elegant code with LLMs very fast, based on standards, which is understandable for LLMs and humans. And this will be upcoming conferences, and also the workshops in winter. So I will show you this live, but this is just an announcement to you. And yeah. Now, Alex S. says, it's a great idea. Thank you. Luis Daniel Meza Velasquez says, I have all this automated, even the repos pipelines with architects. I create microservices with MCP, then just business logic, basically define the JPA entity. Similar to me, without MCPs, what I use is rules, and I will provide the rules on the website, so you can point your LLM to that and say, okay, cool, now generate me a business component. And the cool story is, they know the vocabulary. If you say to, if I open a project with an LLM, they already see, oh, I see, this is a MicroProfile project with ECB structure. So if you say create a new component, it already knows what to do, right? And lots of the rules is because the LLMs are a little bit, eager to generate over-engineered code. They have lots of rule, only create 2 unit tests and not 50. This is lots, to lesser the excitement of the LLMs, right? About Java. Yeah. And Java is also type safe, and there's lots of open resources. So I think with Java is a golden era again for Java developers, because we can write a perfect code with LLMs. And if and what we talk about here for, since 138 episodes is name the components after domain responsibilities. So if you name your component orders and we are selling tickets, this is an additional context for the LLM and for humans. So if the software is maintainable for humans, it is also a good context for LLMs. So this is the. I actually wanted to make it more mystical and magical. But I revealed maybe too much. So I have not too much time, but I will iterate on the website, right? So what you find soon is infrastructure as code and web components. And by the way, I look it up. I registered the domain 2016. So I actually wanted to do this a long time ago, but not with LLMs, rather than this for humans. But now I will do for both. Exactly. So thank you for your feedback. And now up to the next topic. And the next topic is maybe we should do this first. This website is, of course, built serverless. And this is going to be one of the, I published this today. So this is a very fresh project. And what it does, it will be the reference implementation for infrastructure as code. And what it does is it implements CloudFront with Route 53 and S3 with infrastructure as code out of the box. So if you would like to have a cheap website, you can pick that and deploy it. And I had one challenge is, this is supposed to be generic, right? And what I have to define is name of the DNS name, right? So, and the DNS name is here BCE design. In your website would be superfan, or what is it? Top fans with colors, right? And topfans.color, for instance. So there should be a way to configure this. And I thought, okay, how to do it? In the earlier examples, I used JSON, but I said, okay, I need external dependency and why. And the problem is I didn't want it to check it in with the project because someone, and then ignore it because someone could accidentally check it in. So I thought what we could do is to keep the configuration outside. And the question is where? And what I did, it is in the user directory. And on that note, what happened is, okay, cool. I need it everywhere, actually. So let's extract it to another framework. And this is Zero-dependency configuration framework and is based on properties. It's just one class. So I don't know whether, we should call it framework. But this is how it works. I can say zconfig, give me integer, bools, and so forth. And there's like hierarchy. And typically, it searches for the my app properties. And then I can override this from my user folder. This is user folder with stuff in my project, and then override with system properties. And this is just one class. So, I use it in all my projects, and this is not meant to be used as dependency. It's just that's all, right? There's like 80 lines of code, but I use it everywhere, and it works well for such cases. So again, and this was included after the fact into the static website. So it uses the configurator. So I can maintain multiple websites and deploy them on demand. And by the way, how this is working is, I forgot to mention this. If I push the website to GitHub, and code pipeline wakes up and deploys everything. So we could have, if you use JavaScript with builds or whatever, you can use JavaScript. So by the way, BCE web design is no JavaScript. It's just HTML and CSS. Okay, so this is the next announcement. So today is all about announcements, Z configuration. It just, it amazes me over and over again how much is in Java and how much you can use for free without any external dependencies, a few lines of code and you have it. And what I also do for few years, copy and paste, right? So this zero configuration, it doesn't make any sense to create a jar, an embedded jar. This is just one file. So what I do is copy over in a project and then iterate on over it. And if there's a good idea, I copy it back. So it works remarkably well so far. It's just absolute anti-pattern in enterprise, but this is my project, works well. On enterprise, I would do it as well. So no downsides, right? Okay. The chat is very quiet, so hopefully you're still alive. Maybe you bought too many colors, so now I get a question to retire now. Could be, right? So now you see title refactoring. So then I say, okay, I will rename the course. There will be in winter a course. It is December 16th, and the agenda will be extended. And it is, I think, maybe 15 odd, but 10x developer in Java, absolute possible when you know what they are doing. So it's not like you would like the prompt should be create a new order component which accesses the database via JDBC or JPA, and not say, okay, the prompt should not be like create a new app and make me a millionaire, right? So this won't work. But if you are very specific, it's almost like domain-specific language for LLMs. So this is what works fairly well. And I already shown this to my clients, and they were actually impressed how well Java does. And by the way, there's a revival of package info. which I always propagated, but now for LLMs it becomes even more important. And by the way, if you would like to see the code of such an application, take a look. I actually started without LLMs, and there was curious whether LLMs can extend the example. The eBank example, this is such a thing. And I started without LLMs and then created one component for fun with LLMs, and you won't spot any difference, right? Okay. Cool. Hopefully. Now you're quiet, so okay, he talks about LLMs again, but I mean, we have to do something, right? Otherwise, I get the questions all the time. How does Java with LLMs and for agents and so forth? And it does extremely well per accident, because for 20 years, everything was open and LLMs learned on standards. So this is actually what happened. Okay, so I lost the questions, but it will be back now. Okay, so we have the website, we had the title refactoring, and also something cool happened. There are already 1,000 YouTube shorts on YouTube, on my YouTube channel. And what's interesting is I performed some stats, and they get more and more popular. And there is an average views per short 2,400, and recently even more. So this is like crazy, and it's a lots of fun because I get immediately comments with questions. Also very friendly community like here. And by the way, I think I have already 80 uploaded shorts waiting to be published. So for me, it's fun. It's no effort. And recently, where I can also contribute is, if you like, is I'm breaking conventions of enums. So I don't like or for me, sometimes, if you work a lot with infrastructure as code, having, the uppercase constant convention is a little bit cumbersome because you have to add additional mapping. So recently I recorded 3 shorts about asking about that, and there was heated, no heated. There was a really good productive discussion whether we should break the convention to keep the code simple or add additional mapping just to keep the conventions, right? Okay. Luis says something, the smaller the building block the LLM generates, the better it less to hallucinate. Absolutely. And such a building block for me is like a component in BCE or a ST in BCE, and I never generate both. For me, the iteration is very short, and then it works perfectly. But from my perspective, you should only generate with LLMs enough what you can read fast, right? So you should immediately spot, okay, is it okay or not, and reject or not. So this is... Yeah, this was with Stefan Janssen. It was interesting chat, and also with Brock. So if everything is zero dependencies, doesn't that become meaningless? I don't know. For me, the zero dependencies frameworks is actually, some of them could be one class frameworks. Is it meaningless? I mean, it's not everything zero dependencies, right? The eBank, I cannot call it zero dependencies because it's Quarkus dependencies, and all my frameworks like ZMCP and Z configuration, what I published recently, are zero dependencies. So, and the question is why I did it recently, and the answer is because I always had them in projects, and I started new projects for myself right now. Like for instance, this BCE was one of the to-dos, and I wanted, to create some additional order and clean it up. So this is why I extracted some stuff and ask for feedback. So you can also use a smaller model which uses fewer resources. Luis, yes, but I tend, to use the largest model because I also evaluating, how well they are doing. And my favorite is the Claude 4.1. And well, Java's dependency. No, for me is this was always the question. There's a kind of a platform. So back then on application servers, if application server is there's no dependencies. Just for me, it was like part of the operating system. So all the Java EE dependencies were no dependencies for me. And if Java is there, Java 21 or Java 25, then it's for me like the platform which I'm using. So there's no dependency. If I'm using a Mac with a terminal, I only have the built-in terminal, and I use the commands. So I wouldn't consider this command as dependency because it ships with the Mac. But if I will instantly with homebrew something additional, then I will consider as dependency. But it's just my definition. Maybe I should use a different how to call it, different term, right? Yeah, I will keep it called zero dependency. I like the prudent. I don't like the term, I have to say. The electricity company is a dependency. Yeah, it's a good point, right? But let's say electricity, right? So we have the socket, the power socket. So for me, standard, I would say I'm not depending on the power socket because it's standard. But if I would introduce, US plugs in Europe, I will be depending on adapters. I would say, okay, there's dependency on it, right? So I would say dependency is we are dependent on the air, right? But we are on water, but we are not talk about this all the time because it's natural. So I would say maybe unusual dependencies, and for me, unusual is everything or anything which is more than Java, or if I'm on Quarkus, more than MicroProfile and so forth, right? Usually, we will talk about this in the project on the first day, and then everyone knows how it's meant, and just go ahead. And hi then, thank you. Dependency on me, right? So you are very nice. So maybe you will make, I don't know how to boost you, but you could be the top fan number one here if you are spreading such nice words here. Okay, so zero configuration, the website, and by the way, the website, I get lots of questions about CI/CD, whatever, and this is a complete example, infrastructure as code, and yeah, it is 2 hours old, and it was initiated when? Last month, exactly. Okay, now where is the code again? Okay, open in new. Yeah, so 1,000 shorts, fun, and now the yeah, I mean, Lenny, you could call it however you like, but I'm happy with zero, and this is short Z. It could be P, but now it's over. I already, have 5 projects with Z's. And now to rename it, I will keep, iterating on BCE design and just start with Z. And what I will do in one point of time, if you will be unhappy, Lenny, with my naming, what I will do the same strategy as SOAP. SOAP was called Simple Object Access Protocol. And after a few years, they say, this is no more Single Object Access Protocol. It just doesn't mean anything. So I can tell you, Z is just my invention. I like the letter Z. Elon Musk likes X, so I could go with Z, and then you will lose, Lenny, because I can say, okay, I'm the Z, right? So I thank you, Lenny, for watching. This is why we got so many views, because of you. So if you watch everyone, we have 1,000K views just from Lenny. Okay, now 38 episodes. Now is the time travel section. So we are moving 8 years back to May. I think I look it up. It was May 2000. Where was it? 2017. And these were the questions. Maybe we spent. Is better because it's the complete question. Okay. So and this one is interesting. It seems like 8 years ago, Gartner said, application platforms from Java EE are not relevant. And I thought about this, and I say, okay, even 8 years ago, you can completely ignore MicroProfile, Java EE, Jakarta EE, whatever, and build whatever you liked. There were millions of Java frameworks, and to make something functional, which works, you never needed application servers. Actually, there were great apps before application servers. But what application servers, Jakarta EE and MicroProfile gave you, from my perspective, was simplicity. So I didn't have to reinvent the wheel. I got the annotations, used the 5 annotations, and was happy. So this was my thinking. And now it's the same. So even I like Quarkus. I also like Helidon. But for me, it's time too precious to just use the Quarkus stuff if there's MicroProfile, because I learned MicroProfile once, and I can swap easily between Helidon and Quarkus. Why not, right? Why to be depending on a runtime for no reasons? So this is the first question. And now with the LLMs, I would say the standards become even more important, because the LLMs could be trained on standards, and Quarkus doesn't matter then, because you can build your MicroProfile application and Quarkus is done just a runtime, or Payara or Glassfish or whatever. It doesn't matter then. Okay, so this is interesting. So I thought about the Gartner advice back then, because everything what Gartner says, the application servers are no more that important. And I asked, yeah, but the approach is actually important, right? So, and now cool question, right? This is exactly what I announced. How will you organize configuration classes like logger, producers, custom beans, and helper classes in the BCE architecture? And the answer is, just provide a component named logging or validation or help. There are no helper. So I'm against helpers. So there should be classes with specific names, but not helper or utilities. And this is one of the rules in my LLM text, which I will have to clean up and then publish it as well. So modular JSF, this is, I think, how so the ship is sailed, because lots of projects are more interested in JavaScript, but my perception is JavaScript without dependencies and without frameworks, because the entire Node.js NPM ecosystem gets more and more security problems, and they also see that it's not a great idea to have one framework with one file, which I still do in Java, but in JavaScript. Lenny, but the rules are nothing special. You already know them, right? There's a rule like, there should be boundary control entity in every component. One rule is every business component has to have package-info.java with only contains intentions, for instance, right? So this is like, this is nothing new for you. If I see that the LLM misbehaves, I create a new rule, and there's lots of overlapping rules right now, and they are too long. So I will have to consolidate them, but I will go with the website first and then the rules. Okay, so and this was the gateway. What it is like what I implemented back then. I actually looked it up. I forgot about that. It was a project called Firehose, and what it did, it exposed metrics to Prometheus, which is now no more that interesting. We forget about JSF and translations. So how you would handle an endpoint that supports only get with multiple query parameters. And so this is lesser common right now, but what we still get is post which does everything. And my answer would be, if you really have to do this, just go post with JSON. No difference to back then. There was a specific JAX-RS libraries and unknown properties, which I think there's annotation where you can use in JAX-RS to say whether something is null or not there. So I mean null because not set, or really not there because this class doesn't have the property. So which application server would you choose for design average J without specific customer requirements? J2E right now, Quarkus. Why? Because in typical Java EE applications are serverless for cost savings. And this was actually where application server are shining. What you could easily do with application servers to provide one layer with all the dependencies with application server, and then war was in another layer, which was crazy fast. Another thing is also relevant question: CDI events. Do they support generic classes? Not, they don't. But what you could do is you can ask the event for the generic information. Project Jigsaw, this is fun, right? What they're asking is about Java module system. And I think I will use it soon because I'm implementing lots of command line interface applications. And for that, JPMS is actually great. For server or serverless or microservices is less interesting because I'm shipping monolith. But imagine even MCP, right? If you have MCP server with lots of plugins, they could be Java module system plugins, right? What advice would you give to someone just starting with Java EE on how to approach learning effectively? Actually, I hope the BCE is going to be helpful, and I think it's really simple. So what you will have to do is just to think what you are building, and just if you imagine something, just pick the names and name the things with whatever you have in mind, and then iterate and refine the names. It's not like you have to have perfect name. You can start with semi-good name and then rename it. Just look at my repositories. I'm renaming things constantly. And also very good one. Why should we use Java EE with Payara or Glassfish when we have a Jersey JAX-RS implementations? Because back then it was a very fashionable to use Jersey with JAX-RS to create your own runtime, to be a little bit more efficient and skip Payara or Glassfish, who I will never do, because what you get with Payara and Glassfish is someone who cares about the build system and test and so forth. So using Jersey, no, but right now we have another option, is use ZW Zero, of course, web server, and I use it for my web component development, so I don't have any external Python server, whatever. It's just Java. It's another ZWS implementation. So which approach would you use to update a progress in long synchronous task with JAX-RS? SSE events, and I will implement it soon for MCP actually. So interestingly, it is 8 years old episode, 100 episodes back, but still, I would say, still interesting, right? From contents. Okay, now Lenny asked me. I just created Miro Mich. Oh, in 3 days with LLMs and JSF. It's a super simple and better than JS, of course. Luis, I need to drop stuff for. I work for Oracle now, and I have stuff everywhere. Take care. Oh, Luis, thank you, and take care. And have fun at Oracle. Stream hangs. It looks good from my side. Bitrate looks good. From my, it seems like great. So now, talks. You see, keynote at conference. This is the dev talks, I think in 2 weeks or next week. And we take a look. So there will be Java stage, and I was invited as a keynote speaker. And this is the talk. And you don't really have to attend, because I will talk 1 hour or 45 minutes about LLMs and Java, and why it works with more code on stage. We'll hack something. I know keynotes, you have to do something interesting, right? So then another event is completely different topic, is in okay. There was a talk. It is Zero Compromise Serverless Java. So where I will show how to build serverless applications, enterprise serverless application with Java. Also, of course, BCE, you know already the examples. So this is going to be interesting. And the last announcement is super fun. It is a Java user group event. And you see, that's me. And I will destroy Daniel completely, because I will be Quarkus and he's Helidon. And this is the Battle of Frameworks. And we also invited the Peter Obrecht from Payara, so it should be fun. So there will be like, the idea is that I will hack something with Quarkus, Daniel with Helidon, and Peter with Payara, and show that actually the standards are working. and there will be lots of stuff, and people can ask us questions regarding whatever you like in Java. And I'm already looking forward to this event. I was in the Czech Java user group, I don't know, 5 years ago maybe, or even so. But this is going to be fun, and it's the October the 1st is the event, and there are already 10 attendees, and Daniel will also attend. Cool. Now, next one, Hayden Jones asks me, what plugins do you recommend for Visual Studio Code? And right now, I mostly use the Red Hat Microsoft Java plugin, and I think nothing else. So this is the plugins I use the most. If you are, I think in the Visual Studio Code configuration I use for shorts is only this. I'm not even sure whether it is this. And this ships with Maven plugin and XML plugins and all the other plugins. Yeah, this is what I don't think there are any. I mean, there are plugins which I just install for fun and see what happens, right? But it's not like I'm using them in projects. So maybe I have more plugins. For instance, what I use for AWS project is AWS Toolkit, which is great because you can have step functions editor, which is really helpful. Yeah, this is helpful. You can search in logs from Visual Studio Code. So this is helpful, but this is a very specific one. For my daily jobs is this one. I have a Postgres plugin if I need this, but yeah. And there is a short which I recorded about how to set up Visual Studio Code for Java. When you write an end-to-end test, in general, do you write those in a separate projects? Yes, always. And this is like in the eBank applications, which we, where is the eBank? Wait a sec. This was this one. Fruits, no fruits. Too many browser tabs open. And there was the first was BCE. And then we can navigate to serverful. And then to eBank. And this is the SD. So this is one module, and this is the system term modules. In my projects, it always looks like that. And what I do more and more, I can use here Quarkus with injects the MicroProfile REST client interface, and there's this. You can implement very fast end-to-end tests with Quarkus or Helidon. Okay. Next one. So when performing an end-to-end test, how specific do you like the answers to be? So I start with the minimum. So for me, it's already a challenge. And for instance, what you will have to overcome is authentication. So you will need tokens, whatever. So you have to implement this first, and as specific as possible, but not from the beginning. This is maybe the answer. So for me, I try to make the end-to-end tests so complete that I can completely rely on them for the next release. So this is the idea. And are you looking for exact matches? Sometimes yes. So I use assert.j framework. What I also do, I use a lot of JSON-P, MicroProfile JSON-P, not JSON-B rather than P. And what I implement my own assertions. For instance, find order with ID whatever, and use this in my tests. And I talk about that, but maybe I should. Actually last year I was supposed to talk about exactly this, but they asked me to deliver 2 talks, and one was about LLMs. And I get so many questions that the second one, there was no time for testing. But I get faster and faster. Why this? I start in source test Java first, and then I move reusable classes to source main Java in the ST module. And what happens over time is I can reuse more. Reuse means I can inject more and more code, which makes me faster and faster. So yeah. What happens when the underlying data is changed? So there are different approaches to this. The first one is you always create new data. On every task creates new data, which is possible. And you clean up later, but you can accumulate lots of data. So this is the danger here. Or if you have your own database, you can reset the database before every test. So this can be automated, and I do it all the time with cloud databases. Or if you have a S3 buckets, you can create an S3 buckets. You can have millions of them per account. And after the test, you can destroy the bucket, because if you create an S3 bucket, you don't have to give the bucket a name. Yeah, and this basically was. So there was lots of stuff actually in the summer. So far more than anticipated. And there are also lots of interesting podcasts. I really enjoyed with Ingo, and actually I will publish next week the next episode with Maurice Nafthalin about collections frameworks, and we're still not done. So we will talk about collections and best practices next time. As a really nice guy, I really enjoyed the conversation with him. And we also had a conversation with Vibe Coding with Stefan Janssen regarding the upcoming DevOps conference. And Antonio, old friend of the show, LangChain4j. I think this was the episode from last time. And I got a ping from the Tornado guys. They have a new version of Tornado VM. And in next weeks, maybe there will be a version for Metal and Apple. Having said that, thank you for watching. See you at upcoming workshops in winter. And by the way, there are already lots of registrations. So the first one is going to be exactly what we talk about right now. And the next one is about MCP, agent-to-agent, A2, ACP protocols, and all the agentic protocols, how to architect agentic applications. And the first workshop is about how to be effective with LLMs and how to force LLMs to write beautiful code. So with that, thank you and see you next time.